While watching the past few seasons of the NBA, it's clear to see that we're ushering into a new era, with young stars emerging into superstars every season, and players who once dominated the court showing signs of decline. There's a new batch of young stars filled with potential, ready to take over and run the league. Each emerging young star has been tested by battle, came up clutch for their team, and competed evenly with stars before them. Now, the exact same thing can be said about the worst generation. The worst generation is a group of pirates who emerged from the great pirate era, a new era of pirates who are hungry to claim the top spot in One Piece. Much like the young stars in the NBA, the worst generation is filled with new pirates who've all been tested by battle and been able to lead their crew. Now, these comparisons are going to be based off these characters' journey, skill, and personality. Now, multiple players can fit one character, so if you have any different comparisons, feel free to comment them. If you like these videos and want more, please get this video to at least 500 likes and subscribe. If we're talking about one of the most elite second options in NBA history, it's hard not to mention Jaylen Brown. Now, after winning his first championship and taking home a Finals MVP along with it, it's okay to say that to some fans, Jaylen Brown is catapulting himself as one of, if not the strongest player on his team. With already possessing an elite ability to run a fast break, slash to the rim, and even be one of the league's best defenders, he's earned his right to be named one of the best players in the league. Now, part of what makes a player like Jaylen Brown so amazing is his willingness to sacrifice his own personal ambitions for the sake of his team. You won't find many NBA stars of his caliber so willing to sacrifice as much as he has, and that's mainly because his focus is purely to help his crew win games. His no BS attitude and focus is also part of what makes him such an elite player. He's a player who clearly only focuses on his craft and getting better. Now, another thing that makes him such an elite player is the loyalty he has to Boston. Even when given every right to leave or denounce his team, he's always shown that no matter what narrative is out there, he's 100% loyal to the Celtics franchise. So that's why, if Jaylen Brown was in the worst generation, he'd be none other than Zoro. Zoro in One Piece is a character we see in the show who can most definitely hold his own against other captains. Now, much like Jaylen Brown, Zoro is a character who's willing to sacrifice anything to help his crew. With arguably being one of the strongest swordsmen in One Piece and proving he could beat other very strong pirates, he's proven that he's capable enough to be on his own and still do damage. Now, much like how we've seen Jaylen Brown sacrificing touches in order to fit into the Celtics system and win, it reminds me of the sacrifice Zoro made from being renowned as a respected bounty hunter to a pirate under Straw Hat Luffy. Personality-wise, they keep a calm demeanor until it's time to take part in action. Now, one thing we could say about Zoro and Jaylen Brown is they're both shown to be extremely focused on nothing but their craft. They both don't really indulge in many distractions. Now, Morant has proven to be one of the most electrifying guards in the NBA. With entertaining fans with his high-flying dunks and on-court trash talk, he's shown himself to be one of the most fun players to watch and keep up with. One of the things that fans like about his game is the fact that he's one of the most competitive players in the NBA. He's shown that no matter who's in front of him and his team, he's not willing to back down to anybody. Now, one thing we could all say about Ja is no matter the situation, he's still okay with being 100% himself, and this is due to the amount of confidence he has in his ability. Now, off the court, Ja shown the world that he doesn't really make the best decisions, which, as we can see, has clearly affected the trajectory of his career. But despite all the conflict he's faced, you can't deny, with him being one of the most battle-tested players in the league, he's one of the best players when healthy and playing. Now, although he might seem arrogant, fans also can't deny the love he has for his teammates, especially guys like Desmond Bain. So, with that being said, if Morant was in the worst generation, he'd be none other than Eustass Kid. Now, Kid and Morant share many similarities, but the first thing I want to point out is their personalities. Much like Ja, Kid is a pirate in the show who we see has no fear of literally anyone. Kid, besides Luffy, is one of the most battle-tested pirates in the show, with fiercely going against pirates like Kaido, Big Mom, and Shanks, and not only coming out alive from each battle, but stronger. Could perfectly describe Ja going up against top players like Curry and Braun in the playoffs. Both characters aren't afraid to talk their shit, despite who it is. Now, another reason why this comparison works is because they both don't make the most benefiting decisions, but despite their apparent arrogance at times, like Ja, Kid has a soft spot for his crew. Luka is one of the young stars in the league who's already proven that he's a certified superstar. With already being placed in conversations as an all-time player, he not only backs this up with his dominance, but also the numbers he's been consistently putting up. With having prior experience overseas, as we've seen, Luka had no problem transitioning to the NBA. Since coming into the league, he's been consistently giving many of the top teams in the NBA problems. With being one of the only NBA players who continues to rip hearts out of fans in the playoffs while doing it in the most villainous way possible, he's climbed the top ranks of the NBA rather quickly. Part of what separates Luka from the rest of his peers is his play style. With not being the most athletic player in the NBA, he tactically uses his body to get wherever he wants on the court. Most players with Luka's size and speed don't really get too far in the NBA, but with Luka also possessing an insane IQ and knowledge of the game, he's able to take advantage of many of his defenders, and that's mainly because he moves at his own pace and speed. He's also proven to be able to lead a team to a pretty successful season with minimum help. So with that being said, one of the only characters in the worst generation that fits Luka is none other than Trafalgar Law. Trafalgar Law is one character in One Piece who, much like Luka, climbed the ranks of the pirate world rather quickly. With being one of the smartest pirates out of anyone in the worst generation, Law has shown the ability to not only utilize his devil fruit to its full ability, but also maximize its power. Like Luka, Law isn't much of a flashy fighter, and his devil fruit doesn't give him much of a physical advantage like other fruits do. But with being one of the smartest characters in the show, he's able to make it one of the best fruits in One Piece. Now, much like how Luka is a player who moves at his own pace and speed, the same thing can pretty much be said about Law, and this can be proven on many occasions when he yells at guys like Luffy and Kid to not rush him or tell him what to do. Although Luka has recently picked up help from guys like Kyrie, him, much like Law, for a good amount of their careers so far, has pretty much had to carry the load for their team. Another thing that makes this comparison work is how calm they both are under immense amounts of pressure, and due to this, they both have been proven to be able to come up clutch in vital situations. And much like how Law ripped the hearts out of hundreds of pirates to become a warlord, Luka, as we've seen plenty of times, has left many fans heartless by eliminating their favorite team in the playoffs. Anthony Edwards is one of the young stars in the NBA that has one of the best personalities in the league. With unapologetically being himself, he's naturally been able to make not only fans, but even other players gravitate towards him. Now, even though off the court he's a naturally happy and outgoing dude, when it's time for him to lock in for games, he has no problem doing so. He's one of the few players in the league that we could see clearly enjoy the competition of the NBA wholeheartedly. With not being afraid to step up and compete with other top players, he's earned the respect of many NBA legends. Now, one of the reasons fans love his game is because he draws a close resemblance to none other than Michael Jordan. With him being able to do almost anything on the basketball court in terms of defense and offense, there really isn't much you could do to restrict Anthony Edwards' game. And part of what makes him so good is that he doesn't believe there's anything he can't do. These past few seasons, Anthony Edwards has shown how fearless he is on the court by creating the most vicious highlights we've seen in the NBA. His confidence and effort while he plays has even made top players like Cat and Gobert take the backseat to play right behind him. Now, one of the things that makes Anthony Edwards special is that he has the potential to finally end Minnesota's championship drought. Besides the WNBA, Minnesota hasn't won a professional championship since 1969. So the way many fans in Minnesota would look at Ant if he finally brought a chip home is the same way many countries in One Piece look at Luffy. Now, much like Anthony Edwards, Luffy's a character in the show who could be seen as a savior to many countries, which is safe to say it's the same way the T-Wolves fans are currently looking at Ant. One of the main things that really connect these two characters is their outgoing personality that seems to naturally make others gravitate towards them. They both can be seen as outgoing, but also extremely competitive. With them being so determined to win, they have no problem challenging or going against other top crews. With Ant being only 22 years old, he's one of the most battle-tested players in the league. He's already built up quite a resume by taking down other top players like KD and Jokic this season, which can be compared to Luffy constantly challenging and taking down top pirates in One Piece at such a young age. Luffy is also a character in One Piece whose greatness is also very well acknowledged among the older legends in the show. And much like how Ant draws a close resemblance to arguably the greatest player of all time in Jordan, Luffy draws the same comparison to one of the greatest pirates of all time in Goldie Roger. Another thing that really connects this comparison is Luffy's mindset and skill. His mindset is what made other strong characters like Sanji and Zoro want to take the backseat and follow right behind him. Luffy's a pirate who, despite not having neither one of his parents in his life, is still able to maintain a positive and hopeful mindset. The same thing could be said about Ant, who sadly started his NBA journey without his parents as well. If we're talking about a player who has the skill and mindset to be a #1 option on a lot of teams in the league, but currently plays under another very formidable player, look no further than Tyrese Maxey. Maxey these past few years has shown the rapid development of not only his skill, but his IQ. With his speed and his ability to slash to the rim, he's earned the ranking of being one of the fastest players in the league. Now, with being named the All-Star this past season, he's put himself in the category of being one of the best young stars currently. He's shown that even when his team's #1 option is down, he's still more than capable of putting his team on his back to win games. And despite being in one of the most toxic environments in his first few seasons in the NBA, he hasn't complained much, if not at all, regarding the poor management around him. So that's why, in my opinion, if Tyrese Maxey was in the worst generation, he'd be none other than the killer. Now, Killer is a character in One Piece who, despite not being a captain of his own crew, is still regarded as a part of the worst generation. And the reason for this is very obviously how strong and skillful he is in battle. Much like Maxey, the thing that makes Killer such a killer is his speed and his slashing ability with his swords. They're both characters who, despite being put in situations, never complain and always put themselves in position to step up for their crew. Now, although both these guys aren't the #1 options on their crew, they still have the capability and skill to lead a team on their own. The last thing that makes this comparison work is how level-headed they both are in battle. Even with being in pressure situations, they both keep a calm head and are able to execute. One of the strongest, most powerful players currently in the NBA right now is none other than Zion Williamson. Ever since Zion has stepped into the spotlight, he's been praised for his unreal strength and also speed for his size. Now, due to having all this power, he's a player that has an extremely bulky build. This has caused many conflict around not only his weight, but his commitment to basketball. Now, despite what others say about Zion, we've never really seen him outright complain about the criticism he gets. He's one player who keeps a level head and a smile on his face and never really lets the negative information visibly get to him. Now, as far as Zion's playstyle goes, he's extremely good at absorbing contact and hitting you with a more powerful force. There's very few players in the league that could go pound for pound with him in terms of brute strength and power. Not only that, but as we've seen since he was just in high school, Zion has extremely impressive speed and agility for his size. Now, one character in the worst generation that perfectly compares to Zion, in my opinion, is none other than Urouge. Urouge is a part of the worst generation whose skill set, much like Zion, relies on his brute strength. His devil fruit power allows him to absorb contact and dish it back out to his opponents. Now, with also having a huge physique like Zion, he's also a character who possesses amazing speed and agility as well. So as far as skill goes, him and Zion both compare due to their main way of battling being taking advantage of their brute strength. Now, personality wise, they're both characters who, despite conflict rising, always keeps a smile on their face. There's been only a few times in the show where we don't see Urouge smiling. And as far as potential goes, I believe we haven't really seen the best from both of these guys. Sabonis is a player who we could clearly see is extremely formidable, and part of what makes him as good as he is inside the paint. He's an absolute unit. With having an elite feel for the game, he's able to not only play bully ball in the paint, but also able to involve his teammates with the attention he draws. With having a real knowledge about the game, he's able to consistently set up his teammates to score. Now, with not having a flashy play style, even though he's a monster at getting double-doubles, he's one of, if not the most overlooked player out of anyone I've named so far. But despite not having an insane rep, he's shown the league that he's definitely one of the best players currently. Now, with his consistency and the ability to weaponize everyone on his team, the only part from the worst generation that fits Sabonis, in my opinion, is none other than Captain Bedge. Bedge is a pirate in One Piece who, much like Sabonis, could be seen as a literal unit. With being able to utilize his body and make an impenetrable fort, much like Sabonis, he's one of the strongest and toughest characters in One Piece to move. Now, his devil fruit, like I said, allows him to turn his body to a fort, but it also lets his crew members attack the enemy without getting any damage. Now, this could be compared to Sabonis drawing most of the attention on defense to set his teammates up to attack and score. If we were to mention one of the best young stars that brings energy every night he plays, look no further than Scottie Barnes. Scottie Barnes is a player who we see consistently put pressure on teams both offensively and defensively. And although he's one of the best two-way players in the league, I feel like he's one of the most overlooked out of all the young stars in the NBA. And part of the reason why he gets overlooked is because the league these past few seasons has been filled to the brim with other young top talent. With being only 22 years old, he's proven that he has the potential to be in the conversation of top players in the league. Part of what makes Scottie so good though is his freakishly long arms that allows him to get in passing lanes and block shots. His arms also grant him versatility on the offensive end, as well with his ability to shoot and finish over defenders. Now, personality wise, he's one of the most charismatic players in the league, and it's safe to say he's also one of the most interesting players too. So if I were to give Scottie Barnes a worst generation comparison, it'd be none other than Scratchman Apoo. Now, Scratchman Apoo, much like Scottie Barnes, is a very interesting character to say the least. With being pretty unpredictable, you never really know what he's thinking or what his next move is. But despite his unique personality, he's one of the strongest pirates in the show. But with being a part of the worst generation and being overshadowed by guys like Luffy, Law, and Kid, his strength doesn't really get highlighted as much. One of the things that's easy to point out about Apoo's character is his extremely long arms. Now, much like Scottie, Apoo's long arms aren't just for visual display. With being able to use his arms to utilize his devil fruits and also contort them to also launch special attacks, reminds me of how Barnes makes use of his wingspan on the court. Now for characters like X Drake and Hawkins, I decided to compare these two characters to Bam Adebayo and Tyrese Halliburton. Bam fits X Drake mainly due to how strong they are physically, and both guys are known for doing the dirty work for their team. Now Halliburton compares to Hawkins just off the fact that they don't really have an intimidating presence or build, but are still one of the strongest in their profession. Plus the way Halliburton's playstyle setup and involving his teammates can be compared to Hawkins' skill set and his ability to literally use other pirates. Their styles of battling aren't the prettiest, but it's still very effective. Now for characters like Blackbeard, he's not going to be included on this list since I already made a comparison for him in my past video, and characters like Bonnie won't be included due to the lack of info I have on him. If you like these type of videos and want to see more, please like and subscribe. For more content, follow my TikTok and Instagram. Thank y'all for watching.